A man is driving down the road and his tire pops next to the insane asylum. The man gets out of the car and begins to take off the tire. He noticed the fence separating the inpatients from him gathered a few spectators from the inside when the tire popped. The man takes off the tire only to realize that he's missing 2 lug nuts. He looks in the grass, but he can't find them. In a panic, he begins to think. He hears a voice from behind the fence. "Hey, fella, just put the 2 lug nuts on opposite sides of the wheel. That'll keep the wheel on there long enough to make it to an auto dealer. Don't worry, it'll hold." The man thinks about it for a second and then complies, putting the spare tire on with only 2 lug nuts, and it seems sturdy enough. The man looks towards the gate and asks the patient, "Hey, how did you know that would work?" The patient replied, "I'm in here 'cause I'm crazy, not 'cause I'm stupid." A blonde woman walks into a bank in New York City before going on vacation and asks for a $5,000 loan. The banker asks, "Okay, miss, is there anything you would like to use as collateral?" The woman says, "Yes, of course, I'll use my Rolls-Royce." The banker, stunned, asks, "A $250,000 Rolls-Royce? Really?" The woman is completely positive. She hands over the keys as the bankers and loan officers laugh at her. They check her credentials and make sure she is the title owner. Everything checks out. They park it in their underground garage for 2 weeks. When she comes back, she pays off the $5,000 loan, as well as the $15.41 interest. The loan officer says, "Miss, we are very appreciative of your business with us, but I have one question. We looked you up and found out that you are a multimillionaire. Why would you want to borrow $5,000? The woman replies, "Where else in New York City can I park my car for 2 weeks for only $15.41 and expect it to be there when I return?" A Jewish boy got a new German girlfriend. One night, after insane and wild love, she goes into the shower and whispers seductively, "Come join me in the shower, babe." He frowns. "Oh, I won't fall for that one again." A guy visits his brother in prison. "Brother, don't be like me. A life of crime doesn't pay because eventually you get caught. Hiding your phone in your ads hurts, man." "Yeah, brother, but why didn't you tell me this when you had me sneak a phone in here last week?" An Irishman walked down an alley in Belfast. A thug jumped from the shadows and pointed a gun at him. "Millie up, you croppy shite," said the thug. "I'll blast your papist skull." "Bite the back of my bollocks with that blarney," replied the Irishman. "I'm no Catholic, you f***ing Egypt." "Ha!" said the thug. "Good crack. I tricked you. I knew you were a G-bag orange man. Time to die, proddy." "Stay a little, you minging muppet," urged the Irishman. "Begorra, I'm no Protestant either." The Irishman pulled out a Star of David pendant. "See? I'm of the tribe. I'm a Jew, not Catholic nor Protestant. I'm a Jew." The thug lowered the gun. "Oh." The Irishman sighed in relief. After a moment, the thug raised the gun again and smiled. "Then I'm the luckiest Muslim in all of Ireland." A farmer drove to a neighbor's farmhouse and knocked at the door. A boy, opened the door. "Is your dad or your mom home?" said the farmer. "No, they went to town." "How about your brother, Howard? Is he here?" "No, he went with Mom and Dad." The farmer stood there for a few minutes, shifting from one foot to the other and mumbling to himself. "I know where all the tools are if you want to borrow one. Or I can give Dad a message," said the boy. "Well," said the farmer uncomfortably, "I really wanted to talk to your dad. It's about your brother Howard getting my daughter Susie pregnant." The boy thought for a moment. "You would have to talk to Dad about that. I know he charges $500 for the bull and $50 for the pig, but I don't know how much he charges for Howard." A teacher tells a student to learn the first 4 letters in the alphabet by tomorrow, so the kid goes home and decides to ask his mother, "Mom, what's the first letter in the alphabet?" Well, his mom was on the phone with somebody she didn't like, so she responded, "Oh, shut up." So he went to his sister's room and asked her, What's the second letter in the alphabet? She had her earbuds in and was listening to music, so her response was, "Yeah, baby, yeah." Then he went to his father, taking out the trash, and asked him what the third letter was. His father responded with, "In the garbage." Finally, he went to his brother, watching football, and asked him for the fourth letter. His brother shouted, 54, baby, 54! Hit him hard! So the next day at school, the teacher asks him to recite the 4 letters. All right, let's hear the first 4 letters. Oh, shut up. Excuse me, young man, do you want to go to the principal's office? Yeah, baby, yeah. So he goes down, and the principal asks, Young man, where are your manners? In the garbage. All right, that's it. How many lashes? 54, baby, 54. Hit 'em hard. A woman in her 80s made the evening news because she was getting married for the 4th time. The following day, she was interviewed by a local TV station. The commentator asked what it felt like to be married again at her age and if she would share some of her previous experiences, especially since her new husband was a funeral director. After a moment of thought, a smile came to her face as she proudly explained that she had first married a banker in her 20s, a circus ringmaster in her 40s, a pastor in her 60s, and now in her 80s, a funeral director. The amazed commentator asked why she had married men with such diverse careers. With a smile, she replied, I married 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready, and 4 to go. Edna and Lorraine had been meeting at the same bar every Thursday. But this Thursday was special, though. Well, Lorraine said, sliding into the booth with a sigh and a martini. Happy anniversary. Edna raised her glass of suspiciously strong Long Island iced tea. Thanks. 42 years of wedded... something. Lorraine leaned in. So, what's your husband getting you this year? Edna didn't even blink. Drunk! Lorraine cackled. No, seriously. Jewelry? Dinner? Something romantic? Edna took a long sip. He gave me a coupon. For what? 10 free foot rubs. Lorraine nearly snorted her drink. That's not a gift, that's a threat. Just then, Edna's husband, Harold, waddled past the bar, holding a bouquet of wilted gas station flowers and yelling, Where the heck are my pants? Edna lifted her glass. There he is, my Prince Forgetful. Lorraine wiped a tear from her eye. Still romantic, huh? Sure. Every year I fall in love all over again with gin. A woman who has just given birth has fallen into a coma. After 7 months, the mother finally wakes and asks the doctor about her baby. Doctor, good news, you had twins, a boy and a girl. They are healthy. Luckily, your brother named them for you. Mother, oh no, not my brother. He's so stupid. What did he name my daughter? Doctor, Denise. Mother, well, that isn't so bad, and what did he name my son? Doctor, Dennephew. A beautiful, old church with a tall steeple and bell tower was in need of someone to ring the bell every hour, as the priest was getting too old to climb the stairs. He put out a sign asking for someone to fill the position, and an hour later he hears 3 slow thuds on the front door. The priest opens the door to find a man standing there with no arms. He says, I am here about the open position. It has always been my dream to ring the bell in this church. Hesitant, the priest figures he will let the man audition, so they walk all the way to the top of the steeple where the large bell resides. The priest tells the man to go ahead and ring the bell, not sure how he will be able to pull the cord without any arms. The man takes a few steps back, then runs and jumps face first at the bell, and it lets out the most amazing ring, causing the entire town to stop in awe. The man, however, was bleeding from the nose after hitting his face, and the priest said, That was the most beautiful sound the bell has ever made, but I cannot allow you to do that to yourself every hour. Distraught, the man throws himself from the top of the bell tower to the streets below. 2 men walking by see the man fall and stop near the body. One says to the other, He looks familiar. Do you know his name? The other man replies, No, but his face rings a bell. So there was a man who was lost in the woods for a few days. Eventually, he came upon a farm and knocked on the door. The farmer opened the door, and the guy explained that he was lost and needed help. He said he could spend the night as long as he didn't touch his daughter, and if he did, he would suffer the 3 Chinese proverbs. The guy agreed and came inside. During dinner, the daughter kept flirting with the guy, but he just pretended to ignore it, so he wouldn't get into trouble. Later that night, he decided he couldn't stay away, and after the farmer went to sleep, he snuck to her room and they messed around. The next morning, the guy wakes up and notices he has a 100-pound rock on him. Inscribed in the rock, it says, Chinese proverb number 1, 100-pound, rock on chest. Guy thinks the best thing to do is to toss the rock out the window. After he does this, he sees that on the other side of the rock it says, Chinese proverb number 2, rock tied to left testicle. Upon seeing this, he realizes the only thing he can do is jump out the window as well. After making the jump, he realizes there's another message on the window ledge which says, Chinese proverb number 3, right testicle tied to bedpost. It started like any other Friday date night. Edna dressed in her finest purple pearls, and Marvin used the lint roller on his one decent tie. They hadn't dined out in a while, mostly because Marvin said, Why pay someone to forget your order when I can do it for free at home? But tonight was different. Anniversary number 48, or 49. They weren't sure, and neither wanted to dig for the marriage certificate, so they agreed to call it 48 and a half. La Petite Cabernet was a fancy place, the kind of restaurant where they serve the salad on its own plate and butter comes in tiny sculpted flowers. Marvin reached for Edna's hand, beaming. Ooh, I do love you. Edna didn't even blink. Is that the wine talking, dear? Marvin chuckled. Nope. It's me talking to the wine. Edna gave her glass a gentle swirl, then raised it like a toast. Well, tell her she's the best listener at this table. The waiter arrived to refill their glasses. Marvin waved him off. No more for her. She's in a committed relationship now. Edna smirked. Don't be jealous, Marvin. At least this one's full-bodied and doesn't snore. Marvin mumbled something about traitorous Merlot, then tried to toast with his own empty glass. To love, laughter, and wine, Edna said. In that order. Harold had one trick left in his romance arsenal, and unfortunately, Edna had seen it 3,412 times. While she was sorting socks and mumbling about how no pair ever survives retirement, Harold crept up behind her like a ninja with arthritis. With a big grin, he slid his hands over her eyes. Correction, slightly below her eyes. Way below. Guess who? He sang like a man who still thought Barry White played in the background of real life. Edna didn't flinch. I don't care, she deadpanned, still folding socks. But I hope you said goodbye to your fingers. Harold froze. I'm being romantic, he argued. You're being a lawsuit, Edna replied. The dog peeked from the hallway and quietly turned around like it had seen enough for one marriage. Harold removed his hands slowly, like disarming a live grenade. Next time, Edna muttered, try surprising me with a clean kitchen. A doctor walks into an examination room and puts his hand on his patient's shoulder. I'm afraid I have some bad news. You're dying, and you don't have much time left. Oh no, says the patient. How long do I have to live? 10, says the doctor. 10? Cries the panicked patient. 10 what? Days? Weeks? Months? The doctor calmly replies, 9. So, a neo-Nazi walks into a Jewish man's bar. One day, a local outspoken neo-Nazi walks into a bar. The owner is a devout Jewish man who was talking with his brother as the neo-Nazi walks up to the bar. The neo-Nazi orders a burger, which the bartender serves. He eats the burger, pays the bartender with a tip, and leaves. The Jewish man's brother looks over to him and says, "I can't believe you served that man." The bartender replies, "Why? He paid, didn't he? And look, he left a tip." A group of prisoners is in their rehabilitation meeting. Their task for the day is to each stand up in turn, speak his name, and admit to his fellow inmates what crime he has committed. The first prisoner stands and says, "My name is Daniel and I'm in for murder." Everyone gives him a approving look and pats him on the back for admitting his wrongdoing. The next guy stands up and says, "My name is Mike and I'm in for armed robbery." Again, there is a round of approving looks. This goes around the circle until it gets to the last guy. He stands up and says, "My name is Luke, but I'm not telling you what I'm in for." The group leader says, "Now come on, Luke. You have to admit it to us to make any progress. Tell us what you did." "Okay then, I'm in for f***ing dogs." Everyone is disgusted. They all shout, "What? How low can you get?" "Well, I did manage to do a dachshund one time, but I had to lift her back legs up a little," Luke replies. "I'm currently stuck in Europe on what was supposed to be a vacation, and I don't speak the language. Please help. I've been traveling around Europe for the past week, and I asked a girl if she knew what the age of consent was here in her country. She tells me 9. I thought that sounded a little low, but it is Europe after all, and I didn't do much research, so I figured, why the hell not? Turns out she didn't know, and now I'm in an Austrian holding cell." Once, a kindergarten boy had to count to 5. The class teacher assigned this boy to count to 5 the next day. When he went home, he asked his mother, who was talking on the phone, "What is 1?" His mother replied, "Be quiet." Then he went over to his brother, who was watching cartoons and not paying attention. He asked his brother, "What is 2?" His brother triumphantly said, "Superman." Next, he went to his older sister, who was listening to music and going along with it. He asked his sister, "What is 3?" His sister said, "Uh-huh, uh-huh." After that, he stepped outside and saw the garbage man throwing their trash into the truck. He asked the garbage man, "What is 4?" The garbage man said, "Trash. Trash, nothing but trash." Finally, he went back inside and went up to his father, who was watching sports on TV. He asked his father, "What is 5?" His father said, 72 and hit them hard." By that time it was late, so the boy decided to head to bed. The next day at school, the teacher brought him up to the front and asked him to count to 5. The boy said, "Be quiet." Appalled, the teacher asked him, "Who do you think you are?" The boy said, "Superman." Now the teacher was furious. She asked him, "Do you want to head to the principal's office?" The boy said, "Uh-huh, uh-huh." He was dragged out of the class and taken to the principal's office. Once he got there, the principal asked him, "Kid, what do you think this school is made of?" The boy said, "Trash, trash, nothing but trash." Now, for sure being punished, the principal asked him, "All right, how many spankings do you think you deserve?" The boy said, 72 and hit them hard." Harold had been planning this all day. He trimmed his ear hair. He used aftershave from 2003. He even changed into his nicest pair of flannel pajamas, the ones without the mysterious spaghetti stain. Tonight was going to be the night. He slid into bed like a stealthy walrus, flashed a grin at Edna, and whispered, "Guess who's feeling romantic?" Edna didn't look up from her laptop. "Harold, check your email." He blinked. "Why would I check my email? I'm right here, radiating pheromones," she sighed. "I sent it this morning. Subject line, not tonight." Harold grabbed his laptop off the nightstand. Sure enough, there it was. Time-stamped 7:42 a.m., bold letters, all caps, BCC'd to the cat. "Edna," he gasped, "you put me in a reply all with whiskers?" She finally glanced at him. Well, someone needed to see it, and he's the only one who doesn't argue. Harold grumbled. This is emotional spam. She leaned back on her pillows. At least I didn't send a GIF. He muttered, You used to send me love notes. I still do, Edna said. They just go to your junk folder now. A gorgeous maid met her madam and asked for a pay rise. Why are you asking for a pay rise? Asked the madam. Because I iron better than you, answered the maid. Silently fuming, the madam asked, Who said that? Your husband did. Silent fuming intensifies. A bit daring, the madam asked again, Is that all you have to say? I cook better than you, madam. Who said that? Your husband did. A sense of defeat and humiliation overflowed within madam, but she is still unwilling to admit defeat. Is that all? Asked the madam hesitantly. I have better than you, madam. Coolly answered the maid. With a seething rage and trembling voice, the madam asked, Did my husband say that? The maid answered, No, the gardener did. Oh, so how much do you want? Once upon a time, there was a little girl, and one day her mommy decided it was time for her to learn how to cook sausages. So she explains, slowly and patiently, You cut off the ends of the sausages, put a non-stick pan over a medium heat, and then add the sausages. Keep cooking, moving them around in the pan and turning them over regularly so they all cook evenly. The little girl listens, pays attention, and watches closely as her mommy shows her how it's done. But this little girl is clever, and she asks questions. Mommy, why do you cut off the ends of the sausages? The mother is slightly thrown off guard as she doesn't know, and just tries to avoid the subject. That's just how it's done, honey. Weeks go by, and one day the time has come to eat sausages again, and the ritual repeats itself. The mommy explains, the little girl watches and learns, and after some careful consideration, she asks the exact same question. But Mommy, you still didn't tell me why you cut off the ends of the sausages? At this point, the mother can't brush off the little girl anymore and tells her she just doesn't know, but they will ask the little girl's grandmother. So they drive up to the grandmother's house. They make conversation, and at some point, the little girl just has to ask, Grandma, why do you cut off the ends of the sausages? Just like the mother, the grandmother simply does not know. She tries to tell the little girl she should just do as she is told, but this little girl is persistent. One thing leads to another, and finally they all agree they will ask the little girl's great-grandmother, who is still alive. So they drive up to the retirement home. Now you should know the great-grandmother is old and getting deaf, and she shouts, hence the all caps. Once again, they try to make conversation, which is not easy because the great-grandmother is hard of hearing. But, you guessed it, the moment finally comes, and the little girl asks, Great-grandmother, I just have to ask, why do you cut off the ends of the sausages? What? Speak up, girl, I can't hear you. Say that again, the great-grandmother replies. The child raises her voice and asks again, Why do you cut off the ends of the sausages? And the great-grandmother goes, What the fug? Are you guys still using that small frying pan?